Kanisha Grayson, founder and CEO of The Art of Applying. In case you haven't heard about us yet, The Art of Applying helps people from all over the world get into the world's best grad schools and get money to pay for it. Today, we are here to tell the amazing story of our awesome client, Natalia. Yeah, hi, Natalia. All right, so I always like to start off with celebrations, just like we do on our client calls. So what are we celebrating today?
Today we are celebrating that it was just my 30th birthday on Sunday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
And then what'd you say after that?
Just still riding the high of the birthday celebration.
Yes, of course. Welcome to the 30s.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yes, lovely. So tell us what schools you got into so that we can celebrate that.
Sure. I got into UVA Darden, University of Michigan Ross, Georgetown McDonough, and UT Austin McCombs. And I was also waitlisted at Dartmouth Tuck and Chicago Booth.
Bravo. Bravo, Natalia. I love the numbers, so I would love to hear about any scholarships, any money received.
Yes. UVA Darden gave me a $70,000 scholarship over the 2 years.
Wow.
And named me a Forté Fellow. And Michigan Ross gave me $20,000 over 2 years and also named me a Forté Fellow.
Fantastic. Now my question now is, you got named a Forté Fellow at 2 of your schools. Mm-hmm. Were you in Forté MBA launch or no?
I was, yeah. I was in Forté MBA launch, and that's actually how I found out about The Art of Applying, was through Forté.
Fantastic.
So I did they have a face-to-face version and an online version, and I did the online version actually. It was great.
Excellent, excellent. And to get your Forté fellowships, did you need to do anything extra, or was it that you just submitted such a strong application? Like, was there a box to check or any essays to write?
There wasn't a box to check or essays to write. Most of the schools that I applied to are Forté Foundation partners, and so you have the ability to indicate that you were a part of Forté, and they actually give you application fee waivers, which was a huge reason why I decided to become a part of Forté. So they knew that I was involved, but it didn't include sort of extra essays. I think I tried hard to demonstrate my commitment to women's issues and to women's rights through my essays, because that's really important to me. But I didn't have to do any extra writing.
Wow, this is fantastic. And I'm gonna just make this suggestion to you before I forget, so we're just gonna do it on video.
Great.
Have you been in touch with Fundación Harvard?
I have, yes.
Okay, so does it look like they're going to be able to give you any money, or?
It doesn't as of right now. I ended up, I was not admitted to Harvard, so it doesn't really make sense.
I forget, that's the word
to keep track. But
the word Harvard is in the name of the organization, but I was more focused on you got into school and you're from Mexico.
No, it was an incredible, I hadn't heard about them as a Mexican applicant until I started working with you all. So I was very grateful. And I did have a chance to connect with them. They were wonderful.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's so funny that I'm of course, it has the word Harvard in it. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so you've mentioned that you're a Mexican applicant. So why don't you go ahead and tell us all about your profile, whatever you feel comfortable telling us, the kinds of things people want to know, and whatever you want to share would be like your age, your work experience, what kind of work experience do you have, where you went to college, what you studied, your GPA, test scores.
Okay, great. So I am, like I mentioned, I just turned 30. I am originally from Mexico. I'm a native Spanish speaker. I have 6 years of work experience. I've worked in the education sector for about 6 years. I work for a technology company, and I've worked in sort of strategy and also in marketing. So I work in product marketing, and that's where I've been for the past 3 years. I went to college at Mount Holyoke College, which is a small liberal arts college for women in Western Massachusetts. I had a 3.9 GPA and majored in politics and had a minor in history. So I had a very sort of traditional liberal arts background applying to business school, and that was certainly something that I was very nervous about. And I'm also a fairly nervous standardized test taker, always have been. So I had a particularly low GRE quant score. I had a 150, which was about 4 to 6 points below the range of most of the schools that I was applying to. I did have a high GRE verbal score. I had a 161. So that was a good score. But that was a big reason why I was interested in sort of this partnership and this investment, was because I felt that my quant scores, particularly applying to a business program as a Latina woman, as a Mexican woman, could potentially be sort of a barrier to me being able to get in.
For sure. Okay, beautiful share of your profile. I would like to hear, I know you found out about us through Forté, but kind of what resonated with you that inspired you to go ahead and book a call with us?
Yeah, I mentioned I work in higher education, and I think one of the things that I've come to really understand is that there really is this hidden curriculum to sort of applying to graduate school and undergrad for that matter, but I figured that out a few years ago. I think there are so many steps that, particularly for anybody who is first generation or who might not be from the US and therefore doesn't have parents or grandparents who are familiar with that process, that can be incredibly difficult to navigate. I have a really busy work and life schedule, and so I knew that I needed the accountability and kind of the partnership of some sort of program that would keep me on track and that would tell me, you know, this needs to be done by this date. I really wanted to make that kind of investment, and I looked, and there were, you know, candidly, because I was a part of Forté, a lot of different companies approach you, and they know that MBAs are desperate for women. Or really want women. And so I had a lot of options. And what really resonated with me was the opportunity to work with another woman of color, the opportunity to actually be getting feedback on my writing. I love writing and I'm a strong writer, and I wanted to become an even stronger writer. And I felt like if I was going to make that investment, I wanted a program that had a heavy emphasis on that.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the breakthrough call. Did you have consultations with other companies? I'd like to hear, if you did, kind of what that experience was like versus speaking to our team. And also just would be interested to hear, like, what did you think the breakthrough call was going to be like? And then what was it actually like?
I thought the breakthrough call was going to be a lot more about the art of applying, and it ended up being a lot more about me, which was really great. It helped me to sort of really refine, I think, the whole process of applying to graduate school. And I should mention, because I think it's important, that I did apply to MPP and MBA.
Okay.
And so that was another big reason why I wanted to make this investment, because that's, you know, two totally different applications types. But I think the breakthrough call helped me to refine what it was that I wanted to do after my graduate school, and what were the sort of gaps that I needed to cover in order to get there. So that was really helpful. I think that was different to some of the other calls that I had, in which it felt very much like my profile was trying to be shoehorned into different schools. So, you know, it would be things like, oh, well, you know, Duke is really interested in, you know, women who sound like you, but I didn't feel like there was anything about those calls that was about me, about Natalia, not just about like a 30-year-old Mexican woman.
Okay.
That for me was really important.
Okay, so it felt more like we were really connecting with you as an individual and your holistic story and profile versus like, oh, you look like this kind of candidate and like kind of you fit into this box. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I think a lot of the other companies would hedge a lot on your GRE score is really low, so we don't know. And I think when I had the breakthrough call, that is a low score, but that's okay. We can, you know, that doesn't mean that you can't get in. And that was a message that I was really hungry for. I think I was really worried about that, and I didn't believe that I could overcome that. And so having this breakthrough call and hearing that from, you know, people who have been in the business for so long, that was something that I really needed at the time.
For sure. And I love that you were hungry for that. And, you know, I was once in your shoes with that, you know, for me, a low GMAT score. I went to a liberal arts college. I didn't have a lot of quantitative courses, and that was on purpose because I didn't want to take them. And so, yeah, I know what that's like to have people be like, oh, you don't think you'll actually get in, you know, and to, boy, did you get in. So yeah, your results are awesome. So one thing you mentioned is you really wanted our help with your writing. Basically, what are the things you really wanted to get out of the application accelerator? And then I'm going to walk you through all the different things included in the program, and you can talk to me about what you liked about it. But just what were you looking for?
Sure. I think what I was looking for was help in how I could portray my story in the most compelling way. I felt like there were so many different aspects of me and of my life and of the things that I have done or I want to do that I could write about, and that I could try and sort of bring forth to these admission committees. But I didn't know how to choose what would be most impactful. And I didn't know how to weave all those things together. I work in product marketing. Writing is my bread and butter. Selling is my bread and butter. And so I felt like I understood that I was almost too close to the product being me, and that I needed somebody to sort of help me understand and pull out the threads of what is it that really makes you different and unique. And I think the consultants that I worked with were all really talented at helping me with that. And I think just, like I said, I keep going back to this sort of like hidden curriculum, but there's this conference, there's this resource, there's this scholarship. There's just so many things that are available to you if you know that they exist. And I'm sure that I could have found them on my own if I had spent many, many, many hours Googling and researching, but having that all in one place, for me, that was really worth the investment because it saved me a lot of time.
Yes, and your time is very valuable. Yeah, you mentioned being busy. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through the different parts of the program. It's not that you will have used everything necessarily.
Yeah.
Talk about what it was like. So, of course, the first thing is that everybody in the application accelerator has a dedicated consultant. You get to have one-on-one calls with that person. You can also ask them questions in your portal and work with them on your essays. What was it like working with your consultant?
My consultant, I felt, was a perfect match for me. They had done exactly the kind of dual degree program that I was interested in. They had done it recently. And so they were incredibly prepared to sort of help me through that process and were very knowledgeable. They were available, they were very flexible. And I felt like I really had somebody in my corner in that person in the whole time. And the calls allow you to really get to know that person and kind of share your story and your ambitions and really craft a very kind of collaborative relationship. I really felt like it felt more like a kind of relationship than I had expected. I thought it was going to be a little bit more transactional, and it wasn't, which was great.
Beautiful, beautiful, awesome. And so in addition to the one-on-one consultant, something that is really unique at the Art of Applying is that we then do a hybrid. So there's some group coaching. So we have the weekly Q&A call, the weekly test prep call, the weekly writing center call. Then every month we've got the all clients Q&A call hosted by me. And then we have the all clients monthly mindset call hosted by our in-house mindset coach. And then I'm also going to just throw in there, you also get those one-on-one calls with the mindset coaches. So I just want to hear about all the other calls and how those were for you.
Yeah, the mindset calls were, I mentioned that so at the start of my time with the Art of Applying, I was still pretty deep in test prep mode. The mindset calls were huge for me because I think that was where my biggest anxieties and frustrations were around the test. And so having access to mindset coaches was really, really helpful. I think for me personally, the one-on-one mindset calls were a lot more helpful than the broader group ones, just because I could sort of dive into the specifics of what I was experiencing and strategies around that. I found the weekly calls really helpful. I really like that there's a culture as well in which you can pop in and out. I think when I first started, I was worried, oh God, am I going to have to, if I join the Q&A call with Kenesha, that's 2 hours long and I have a work thing, like I'm going to have to pop off. Is that going to be a problem? And it's not. And I think that makes it really easy for you to kind of get what you want out of it. There are some weeks, there were some months when I was in heavy writing months in November, I was applying round 2, that I was calling into the weekly calls every Wednesday. And then now it's been a couple of months and I pop in, maybe once a month. So I think that it really is designed to help you take as little or as much as you want. And that's been great.
Awesome, awesome. Other resources in the program is the Application Accelerator Resources folder, where we've got kind of templates for different types of email scenarios with admissions committees. We've got some sample essays. We've got recordings from 3 years of the program. And then also the Q&A vault. So, our private client forum where you can submit questions. How was it for you using those?
Great. I really liked that. I think the system that is being used right now, which is Basecamp, which I don't know if that's what you've used for a long time. I think it's really intuitive, easy to use, very helpful. The templates are amazing. I mean, again, that's all about sort of efficiency and time saving, right? And not reinventing the wheel. I just used one yesterday to negotiate a scholarship, and it's a great resource to be able to just go to it, plug in your stats, and then kind of have a lot of the times when you're writing, I think staring at a blank Word document is very terrifying. So at least having something to work off is great. So I definitely made use of all of those resources. I applied to HKS, which I know a lot of people who work with the art of applying are interested in, and there were so many resources specifically for that, and they require a ton of writing, so that was very helpful.
Awesome. And then what happened with HKS for you?
I was not accepted to HKS, unfortunately. I think that that was, a disappointment, and I think it's a good lesson that even when you have, for all the celebrations, there's also, times that it doesn't work out, but that's
right.
okay.
That's right. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I've hit on the major parts of the program that I want to talk about. I love that you mentioned that there's a culture of it being okay to pop in and out of the calls. In general, how would you describe our culture at the Art of Applying?
Something that I love is that I think the culture is actually very disciplined. I think that it's very relaxed, but it is very disciplined, and there are sort of rules is a strong word, but guidelines. I do really well with that. I think it makes it, I like knowing when things are expected of me, when the deadlines are, what can and cannot happen. And I think that makes it really clear, particularly, it's a contract, right? And so I think that it sort of honors that investment that you're making, and also honors the time that the consultants and that others are putting into their work. I think it's an incredibly collaborative environment, and I have been so grateful to have the opportunity to connect with others who are in the same boat as I am, and to form friendships over base camp with men and women kind of all over the world, checking in with others. There was another person who was doing dual MBA MPP with HKS, and we were both kind of talking all the time, helping each other out. I know somebody who's an admissions person at this school, you applied there. It's nice to just know that there are other people all over the country, all over the world. There were, in my cohort, there are people from India and in the UK, and having access to them is really great. So I think the culture is it can feel very competitive to be applying to graduate school, and it can feel very, I think, secretive, especially if you're in a work environment in which maybe you're not sharing that, or maybe you're not able to share that. And so just having a dedicated community where you can be open about your dreams and your aspirations and your fears, all of them in the same place, that's really invaluable.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, this was amazing. I would love to know what I would like for you to weigh in on advice and encouragement to other Forté MBA launchers. Like maybe what did you're already in Forté MBA launch. They've got some webinars. They've got, that was how you knew about the Art of Applying. I know there's some test prep. There's some fee waivers. What made you be like, I'm in Forté MBA launch, but I still want to sign up for this?
Yeah, I felt like Forté MBA launch provided a ton of great resources around, like you mentioned, test prep and fee waivers. And I think the other thing they do really well, and so does the Art of Applying and others, is to just alert you to some of the other schools that maybe you haven't even thought about, right? Like there are other schools that aren't HBS and Wharton, and they help you to see that. For me, I knew that I was interested in applying to schools that had a huge and very central focus on diversity and inclusion, and that had done work to sort of make that really come to life beyond the numbers that they can publish on a website. And I felt like this program was going to help me find those schools, and again, sort of save me time and research. And then I have always felt rather that the most important part of the application is your story, because that's the only thing that you can truly differentiate yourself on, and that's not a number and it's not a GPA. And I wanted to be able to tell the most compelling version of my story, and I felt like, I'm a writer, and I know that writing improves when you have feedback. And I'm very lucky that I have really talented friends and coworkers, and I have a partner, and I knew that they all could read my essays and provide feedback, but I wanted to pay somebody to do that so that I didn't feel like I was constantly asking, my friends or my partner to take on sort of emotional labor for me. And I wanted to be able to keep that separate from my personal life. That's something that for me was important, to sort of create a separation in the way that some people separate sort of work and home. I wanted to be able to separate my application process from the rest of my professional and social life, and that this was a way that I could do that.
Lovely. And how do you think your experience of applying to grad school was improved by having that separation and that dedicated expert help and community that wasn't kind of leaking over into your personal and professional life?
I think a lot of people, there's a ton of pressure as you're applying to graduate school because it is taking so much time out of your day-to-day life and your ability to sort of focus on your job or your professional relationships or your hobbies. And for me, it made me feel like I had made, making this investment made me feel like I was doing everything that I could to sort of really set myself up for success. I think that there are plenty of people who have a lot of grit and can apply to graduate school multiple times. I admire that. I'm not one of those people. I knew that I wanted to do this once and that I wanted to do it to the best of my abilities. I didn't want to leave anything on the table. I have always believed that the greatest investment you can make is in your education. And for me, this was just the start of that investment.
Oh, beautiful. And so you've used the word investment a lot, and I love it. I would like to hear, at the end of your breakthrough call, when we're like, okay, we're 100% confident we can help you. We do want to invite you into the application accelerator, and here's the investment in order to join us. How did you feel about it at that moment? Was there fear, hesitation, or was it like, let's do this? And then now, how do you feel about the investment you made?
Oh, there was a ton of fear and a ton of hesitation. And, I think candidly that out there in the internet and in the real world, I felt like there was a lot of judgment for making this decision. Like, oh, are you really gonna, spend all that money? That's silly. You don't need that. And so I think when when that first happened, I knew that it was going to be an investment, of course, but I think, when you're presented with a number, that's a whole different kind of experience. So I felt a little bit of fear. I felt a little bit of discomfort. I think that particularly as a woman and somebody as a woman of color, my mind immediately goes to the ways in which, money can be used for other people in my life or other causes in my life. It can sometimes be hard to feel like it is okay or justified to make that investment in yourself in that way. But for me, I knew that I not only wanted to get into graduate school, that was really important, but I also knew that I wanted to get money. I wanted scholarships because I work in higher education and I know that these institutions have the funds.
That's right.
And I wanted to be one of the people that was selected. And so for me, it wasn't just I'm making this investment so that I can go to graduate school. It was I'm going to make this investment so that I get, an X number of return because I'm going to get these different scholarships. And I did. So for me, and maybe that's not the case for everybody, but I felt very much like it was an investment as opposed to an expense. And I think framing it that way for myself was really helpful because sure, there are moments when I was like, gosh, that was a lot of money and maybe I shouldn't have done that. But when you think about it in that way, that makes it an easier pill to swallow.
For sure. And I totally get it. And I would also like to hear what advice or encouragement you'd like to provide to other Mexican applicants or other Latina applicants.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about the fact that there are not enough Latina and Latin American women represented in, top 20 business school programs. I think that many of them have large Latinx and or particularly Latin American populations, but the vast majority of those applicants and enrollees are men. I think that the advice that I also have, and something that it took me a while to really get to, is that you can chart your own path. I think I was a non-traditional applicant with non-traditional post MBA goals. I want to work in social impact. I wasn't necessarily going into marketing or consulting or general management. And at first I thought that was going to really weaken my application. And I think through my work with the Art of Applying and through my experience getting to meet different recruiters in the MBA process, I've realized that all the things that you worry make you non-traditional are actually the things that make you a desirable applicant to them.
That's right.
So I think, do a lot of research. I think that is be confident in the decisions that you make about who you partner with. If you're going to, make this kind of investment, be really clear about what you want to get out of it, so that you don't spend your time, not getting what you need out of it. So I think for me, I was very clear. I wanted, to I wanted to apply to a lot of schools. That was another reason why it made sense for me to have this investment. Maybe if I had applied only to 3, I could have done that on my own, but I applied to 10. And that's hours and hours upon hours of work on top of a full-time job and, you know, a life and friends and family and hopefully trying to exercise, you know, once in a while. So it was good to have that help.
That's right. Yeah. I love that you shared you applied to 10 schools, because that's another thing that makes our program different is once you make the investment, we're all in. We're not like, you know, charging you by each school and things like that. So that's another thing I just wanted to point out. Well, this has been amazing, Natalia. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It is going to inspire so many people. I think it's going to be particularly, just like you said, inspiring to Latinas. Inspiring to people from small colleges that are like, I didn't take calculus, you know? Inspiring to people struggling with the test. And I just so happy to have captured your story. It has been an honor working with you, and it's just, love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our video. For more videos just like this, make sure you click subscribe. And if you want to work with us on your graduate school applications, visit us at theartofapplying.com or click on the link below in the description.